Hey guys, let's just go over how to repair a tire, and I'm going to show you both ways. We're going to be using the plug patch style plug. This is the proper way to do it. And then I'm also going to show you guys, for those of you that keep these in your vehicle, how to use just the standard plug style. Now, these are mostly used for in emergency cases, and you would keep something like this in your vehicle, so when you're on the side of the road and you get a puncture and have a low tire, you can just fix it on the side of the road to get you to the repair shop. But yeah, for the most part, if you're having a repair performed at a shop, you should have these plug patch style repair plug patches installed. So first things first, let's just quickly go over where a tire can leak. You basically, anywhere that it seals against, so we've got the bead of the tire where it seats against the rim. A lot of times you get corrosion and it'll leak in between here. Also, we've got the valve stem, so it can either leak between the valve stem and the actual rim, or you could also have a leak in the valve core itself. So besides those places, also the bead on the bottom side. But besides those places, most of the time it's going to be a puncture in here, and we just need to check that quick. So we're going to use some soapy water. I'm just using regular dish soap and water mixed together, and we just spray this thing down. I make sure that I got air in this, but you could also have a crack in the rim. I doubt that it's a very uncommon thing to happen. Not impossible, but very uncommon. Spray everything down, and basically we just want to locate where this leak is. So hit it with soapy water. And really slow leaks, might take a few minutes to show up, but you should be able to find it. Very rarely are you not able to find the actual leak. So we'll just let that sit for a second. Just spinning it around, taking a look. Okay, I can see there's a leak right there. And I can see that we actually have a screw in the tire. Now, if a vehicle comes in with a leaking tire and I see that there's a screw in it, I still leak check it just to make sure that there isn't a second leak, because from time to time, you will actually have a second leak, whether it's corrosion around the bead, or I've even had a double puncture situation with a screw here and a nail somewhere else. And you don't want to be just fixing this, pumping it up, and sending it back out the door without checking it. So I always just spray the whole tire down, make sure I find if there's more than one leak, and I also spray it once I'm finished, just to make sure that it is sealed properly. So you can see here that we are in the center of the tread. That is the repairable zone. This is called the shoulder of the tire. It's considered the shoulder. So both inner and outer shoulders are considered a no-go zone, and they're not repairable in these areas. And then the same as the sidewall. The sidewall itself cannot be repaired either. So when the vehicle's weight is sitting on the tire, you'll notice that the contact patch on the ground, it will actually be a bit of flex in the sidewall and the shoulder. And that's really why you can't fix it there. Is as the vehicle's driving down the road, this sidewall is constantly flexing as it would go past wherever you've patched, and it puts a lot of strain on that area, and it's prone to failing and then giving out. So we want to make sure that we're in the center section. A lot of places just say 80% basically of this much of the tire. So without further ado, let's get this screw out of here, and I'll show you how to fix it with the plug style. Now, you'll probably want to use something like pliers, either needle nose pliers, or in this case, we could probably just use a screwdriver. So let's grab a screwdriver here and see if we can just unscrew this thing. I'm going to try to give you as many details in this video as I possibly can to help you become better at repairing tires. Okay, so we've got the screw. If you were doing this on the side of the road, you would want to leave the screw in there basically until we have this ready to go. because you're going to lose some air. Now, if you have a compressor on board of your vehicle, that's fantastic, but most people don't. So you're really just, you want to keep as much air in the tire as possible. So let's get this set up. So you're going to notice we've got a couple tools. We have the plugs, and then we've also got these two tools here. This is a reaming tool that we're going to use to basically just clean out the hole and try to widen the hole a little bit for the actual plug to make it through. And then this is our plug installation tool. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead, open this up, grab ourselves a plug, and it's sort of a fibrous string with some sealant on it, and then we want to fish it through here basically. And these things are pretty sticky, so they're kind of they can be a pain to deal with, but we want to go halfway so that it's sitting in there like that. And you'll notice we got some lube as well. So what I like to do is just actually, I'll take a little bit of this lube and I'll put some just on here. And that's just going to help it slide into the hole a little bit, because this is going to be really tough to get in. You're going to have to put a lot of body weight into moving it. But I don't want to put a whole lot of lube on there because I don't want it to be slippery. I still want it to stick in the hole. But we put a little bit there. You could just coat this before. But anyhow, so now we got this ready. Basically have this on standby. And then what we're going to do is take this out. And then we're going to ream this hole out. Okay, let me grab my light so I can see. Right there. So then we just go back and forth. And we want to do this just for about a minute or so. And just really kind of ream that hole out. Like I say, it's a tight fit with that plug. So it's kind of a pain. If you don't ream it out enough, you're not going to be able to get this to go in. But so now what we're going to do is just swap them. And you're going to want to push this in. Till we're about there. So we've got some of the plug inside the tire and some outside. We don't want to go too far, but we want it to be in there about halfway so that when it folds up, half of it's outside, half of it's inside. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give it a twist, and we're just going to yank it out like that. And then we've got a little razor, little knife. And we're just going to basically, I guess that stays in there. Maybe it does come out. It does, it's just really rusty. Okay, so then we just cut this off. Cut away the excess. Okay, and then we'll spray it down with some soapy water. And this is basically a temporary repair that's going to get you back to the house or back to a repair shop to get this fixed properly. I've posted a video about which one would you rather use to a bunch of mechanics on YouTube, and a lot of people say that they use these without any issues. And I've used them myself before in the past. It's not my preferred method, but if I need to plug something quick and get somebody out of a jam, then I'll do it. But you can see that's holding up, and then yeah, basically that gets you by. So that's done. Now if we were going to be doing it this way, we have to break the tire down. So that's the big difference, is with just your standard plug, you ram it in from the outside, and with a plug patch combo, you got to break the tire down because we've got to put this in from the inside out. So what I'm going to do is just leave that in there, but let's pretend that the screw is still there. Next thing we're gonna do is we found the leak and now we need to break the tire down. So we've got our valve core removal tool. Pull this out. We let all the air out. And then what we want to do is break the tire down. Now, one thing you could do for these guys that are actually in the shop, this is kind of a cheater way, but you can mark where the valve stem is. So when you put it back together, you don't really have to balance it. It's gonna save you a bunch of time. Personally, myself, I balance them every time. All right, just before I break this down, I just noticed, looks like we got another small leak right there. And there was almost another one that was over here somewhere. So this tire might be sort of on its last legs, but let's continue. So we gotta break this down. Using the tire machine, we obviously need to just watch where the sensor is. Give this the old flip. Now we want to just make sure too that we note which direction the tire is going, if it's directional or if it's got an inside or outside. So you could just quickly use some chalk and mark the outside of it if you want as a reference to know where to put it back on. Or if you're good enough at this point in your career, you just know. So you can see how the way I take the tire off, it just completely stays away from the sensor. And then we can take our tire off. And what I want to do actually is just take a quick peek. I marked out this little leak here. So I'm just going to take a quick look inside the tire and sort of assess it. And see, I don't really see any damage. But there's our plug. So I'm going to use some pliers and just rip that out so that we can continue. But yeah, you just want to give it a quick overall assessment while you got it up and make sure that, you know, there's no damage to the sidewall. A lot of times, if the tire actually deflated and was running flat, if it's not a run flat tire, the sidewall takes significant damage. Just basically the sidewall is going to fold down and it's going to get destroyed. So for those of you mechanics that are watching this video, just pay attention to details, really assess the tire, and make sure the tire's good to go back into service and that the customer's going to be safe. That's the overall goal, of safety. So now everything looks good. Doesn't look like this thing really has been driven on flat, but I don't really see any other spots that were leaking besides that that small leak. I'm not really going to worry about that. But moving on, I'm going to rip this out. And then I'm going to show you what we got to do to prep this up to put our plug patch in. So you'd basically be at this point where you remove the screw and you've got a hole. The next thing I'm going to do is use this carbide bit and I'm going to ream the hole out a little bit to make room for our plug patch. And it doesn't have to be huge. You just want to go through there and basically remove some, because the size of this plug patch, if you don't drill it out enough, it's going to fight you and probably rip in half. So now that we've got that drilled out, we need to prepare the inside. And I'm just using this abrasive 3M purple cookie, and we need to remove and surface the inside of the tire where the hole is. So you can see there, you see all the tread design that's basically on the tire. We want to make that all smooth. Okay, now we didn't remove too much, because if you take too much rubber off, you're going to go down to the cords, and you don't want that. So just enough to resurface it, and we need that smooth surface so that our plug patch, the actual patch part, will bond to the rubber. The next step we want to do is clean that. So we're just going to use this liquid buffer. This is like an alcohol kind of cleaner, and we basically just pour some on. And you're just gonna let that sit and it'll dry. Then we're gonna follow it up with some of this vulcanizing cement. Now this stuff basically is a chemical, and it's gonna melt the patch into the tire. It's actually gonna chemically bond the two together. And so then we just basically, we wanna just put some on there. Just like that. We don't have to put a huge amount, just a bit. We want to let that sit for 20 seconds or 30 seconds. In the meantime, we're going to take our plug patch and we're going to remove the backing. So you just give this a twist, and this is just going to come right off. And then for this, we just give it a little foldy fold and use your fingernail to get underneath of it. And it should just come off like that. Not much to it. That one was kind of a misprint, I'll call it. So it should look like this. So then we're gonna just stick this through the hole and get it started. Then we're gonna use some needle nose pliers and pull it through the rest of the way. So you go ahead and grab that. Okay, pull it all the way through, you feel it, it bottoms out. Now what we're gonna do is gonna use this thing here. There's a name for it, I forget what we call it, but it's like a little wheel with teeth on it. And we're just gonna roll this in. And what it does is it just beds the patch into the tire. So we work our way along like that. Boom, just like that. Now there is like a black sealant that you can use to like paste over that, but I don't use it. I find it's kind of just a waste of time. But now we're just gonna use some flush cuts or some cutters, side cutters. We're just gonna trim this off. And I just leave a little bit. Some guys like to cut it off flush, but it'll wear off on the road as the vehicle drives, so no big deal. And then, yeah, we just basically make sure didn't leave anything inside the tire. Looks good. And we're ready to put it back on at this point. So before I do though, I always just make sure that, you know, the surface of the rim is nice and clean. It doesn't have any rust on it, doesn't have any corrosion on it. And we check both beads, always check both beads. And I'll also take the weights off at this time too. For those of you guys that are mechanics out there, you'll know this is the time to take the weight off. Otherwise, once you get the tire on, the pliers sometimes they don't like to actually get in there, and they'll be sort of a pain. So we're just gonna lube up this tire now, and then we'll get her put on. There is stuff that I'm gonna use called bead sealer, and it's basically like a liquid rubber. It's black, looks like this. and you pretty much just paint the rim with it. And that's just going to really give you that extra seal so that, you know, you don't have any leaks. Paint it on there nice and thick. Okay, now we remember which way the tire goes on. Goes on like this. There's the mark. We'll get this lined up so that we can not wreck the sensor. You can see here, it's following around and it never touches the sensor. Once again, we want to be on this side of where it contacts. Beautiful. Let's fill this thing up and then we'll respray it and make sure that we don't have any leaks. Another thing, I was just going to put that back onto here. If you weren't going to balance it, you would just want to line your line back up so that hopefully it's as balanced as it could be. I've already taken the weights off, so I obviously intend on balancing it, but if you did want to not balance it, you would just leave the weights on it, obviously. So, okay, now that we're filled up, we're going to put like 40 psi in this thing. Grab our valve stem. Then we're going to give it a spray. Yeah, I'll usually just let it sit for a couple minutes to make sure that it's not leaking. And it does not look like it's leaking, so that's fantastic. That would be a successful repair. At that point, we would then go to the balancer and balance it up, and Bob's your uncle. So, hopefully you got lots of information out of this video. That's kind of the point. And yeah, if you got any questions, throw them in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.